Hello. It's one more thing from Mac and N. I'm William Gallagher, and I'm talking to you surrounded by my two iPads, my iPad, my iPhone, Magic Keyboard, Magic all this stuff. But also with us, spread out over his kitchen top, is Malcolm Owen, who doesn't have an iPad yet. Malcolm, hello. What's going on?
Okay, well, first off, hello, listener. How are you doing? Secondly, I know that we have this cafe of where we're talking on a kitchen table and everything. I'm just going to explain what's happening because of the timings. We're recording this on a Wednesday. Officially, the iPad Pro 9.7 is coming out on a Thursday. I've had a notice from Apple saying that it has been dispatched on Tuesday. So that would be yesterday for recording, 2 days ago by the time this podcast gets released. So in theory, I might get an iPad turning up today on my doorstep. In practice, because of the way the couriers work, I may get an iPad today, I may get an iPad tomorrow, I may get an iPad on Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, or July.
Okay. My mind's split off in several directions here. I was thinking Malcolm's getting an iPad, but now K for Bay, I've never heard that term before this morning. Am I just ignorant? It's a sports thing.
Well, I wouldn't even call it a sports thing. It's a wrestling term for the suspension of disbelief.
All right. K for Bay. It just sounds like a character name to me. Hi, I'm K for Bay, attorney at law. Together we fight crime. Sorry, I'm off on one here, but what else can you do but go off on one while waiting? I feel a certain bond here with you, Mac. Because you're looking at Apple delivery notifications, you're being told it's on the way and all this stuff, and I'm reliving being through that with so many things over so many years. And it occurs to me that this is pathetic of me. But, on the other hand, I so immediately identified with you. I think this is an Apple buying thing, a rote of passage, to just combine some different ideas there, that Apple buyers go through. Have you heard of an app called Deliveries? We've mentioned it at macandn.com, but it's iOS, so you may not have looked at it before. Do you know about this app?
I'm vaguely familiar with it.
It's a nice app. I've forgotten the price of it. It's not very much, but it saves you having to wait for Apple's emails or Amazon's emails, or as I did when my iMac was terribly delayed once, saves you logging into your Apple account and doing it. Once you've given it permission on an order, it just checks for you every now and again. And the latest version even gives you a map of where it is. Usually I don't care, but my iPad Pro made its way over from, I think, somewhere near Hong Kong, and it was quite fun watching the little track across the world. Now, I'm not very far away from this word pathetic all day today, am I? But it was fun. It's like being on an airplane when you watch the map of where you are instead of looking out of the window and things. There's something appealing about it. And I also particularly like the thing with deliveries. You always get an email receipt. If you copy the number out of that into your clipboard and then open Deliveries goes, aye, getting something, are you? And it almost always knows which company is sending it, Amazon or DHL or whatever the order number comes from, and works it out for you. And I kind of like that. And every now and again, particularly in the run-up to Christmas, it was really useful to see this countdown. This present for Angela is arriving in 5 days. That one for me is in 6 days. How unfair that is. All this stuff. So you were asking when we were talking before, are there apps that you recommend? And I don't know. I would recommend Deliveries, but I have a thing of, should you recommend anything at all? Should you actually just get the bare iPad, enjoy that, and add things as they come up? Have you already bought apps in readiness for the moment?
I'm going to say no. I've been slowly picking up apps when they're free in the App Store.
Ooh, what have you got? What's exciting?
You expect me to open that up and hope that the connection doesn't die? Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
No, I thought some of them would be memorable enough for you to...
oh, crikey, no. I've already set a YouTube app. I think it's already got that built in, doesn't
it? Yes, it does. I had to think about that, though.
Yeah, here we go. So some of this is all British stuff, so apologies. All 4, which is Channel 4, BBC iPlayer, Gmail, Monument Valley, that drawing app that you reviewed a bit ago, Skype, Super Hexagon, Slack, Yeah. Hearthstone, which is, I think that's over a gig in size, which is going to be fun to install.
Actually, sorry to get geeky about this, but I don't know what iPad you've. I know it's the iPad Pro 9.7 inch, but what sort of capacity?
I went for the middle one, the 128.
Sounds sensible to me. I'm trying to find a way to ask the colour without sounding
Space grey.
really. Thanks. I'm looking at my iPad Pro here, and I was surprised how few apps I have. I have 2 screens worth, but I spent all my life in them, so I've got to be recommending them. You write? Do you write fiction as well as non-fiction?
I'm not really a fiction guy. I prefer factual. I'm still about 58 words into my book that I'm writing, so...
Well, when you get to 60 words, you might like to look at Ulysses. I recently moved over to it, and I'm not 100% happy with it, but I'm just kind of a fan of it. It's a writing app. You can think of Scrivener, but for iPad, though, Scrivener is coming. Are you a 1Password user?
No.
Oh, do you have an alternative? Because we talked about passwords before, and I think...
This is a weird thing. I don't have any sort of keychain. Do you know what my keychain is?
A nice thing you...
My brain.
Wear on your brain...
I know it's dangerous to say that because there's I'm going to have, statistically speaking, fewer passwords than other people to remember. But then again, I'm someone who understands the concept of I need to have fairly secure passwords and I need to have a lot of them over multiple accounts. So I'm going to be less likely to have people get the password right for a specific account, if you know what I mean. I'm not...
Sure. Do you change that?
Yeah. Generally speaking, when it gets to a point where I can't remember the password, I'm going, okay, is it that? No. Is it that? No. Is it that? That? No. Is it that? No. Okay, let's try to capitalize this for versions. Is it that? No. That? No. That? Yes. There we go. So there are many times when I get told you have to reset your password because of the number of times I try and get into something. So, yeah, that's a thing.
Your iPad's going to have Touch ID, isn't it? Touch ID is gorgeous. I haven't got it on my original iPad Air, and I really miss it. Particularly, actually, also Apple Pay. Are you going to have Apple Pay?
That's another thing I found out. I didn't realise until I will have Apple Pay on the iPad. Because of how Apple operates Apple Pay, you can't use it in apps. So you can only use it in apps. You can't use it going into a store and just smacking your iPad against the payment terminal.
Okay, I just twitched there at the idea of that.
You know what I mean. I want to be able to go into my local Subway store and say, can I have a meatball marinara, footlong and herbs and cheese, whatever veg that they have there, and just to do the magic thing of, I'm going to pay with this physical device. I want to do that, but I still can't.
I'm just picturing me walking into Subway with, I have the larger iPad Pro, the 12 point whatever it is, inch one. Yeah, I don't know that I'd be able to see the little cash register. The iPad would be so big in front of me. Anja has an iPhone 5, which doesn't have Apple Pay. So she does have an Apple Watch, which does. And everything Apple says is, you're fine. Apple Watch, blip, blip, away you go. But you can't set it up without an iPhone that has Touch ID. So we walk in places and I can pay. And she can't. And it's making a difference. I find I go out without my credit cards. Sometimes I go out with money in my hands. We've had this discussion before, and you were right. I think that's daft of me. But, in a hurry, occasionally, you're running, you're changing, you forget something. It's not as big a deal as it used to be. I hate to say this, but there is an obvious answer. You're going to order an iPhone SE?
Probably not.
Did I go too far then?
It's difficult to say. I kind of want to get an iPhone. But at the same time, I know I've got to wait for my contract to come up for renewal, which is in I think about 2 months' time. And here's the other thing. I don't particularly like small phones. Just to be polite about this, I am what's known as a large guy. And while I can understand the allure of a small phone being nice and compact and everything, I kind of like the idea of having a phone which I can get my fat sausage-like fingers to work on the screen.
Okay, I thought you meant You're a big man, as in you've got stature, and I was agreeing with you there.
Before we drive on to the next bit of the podcast, I might as well bring this up because it's been sat here for a while and I'm going, should I talk about it? Yeah, I might as well. Thanks, Apple, for not bundling everything together in my order. I didn't see an option there to make everything go in one package or to have everything split down into multiple orders. But I ordered 3 things at the same time during my iPad Pro order because I know that I will almost certainly drop it. I ended up paying for the silicone case and the smart cover for it as well. And those 2 items came through extremely quickly. So for the last couple of days, I've been sat here with these covers, with the cover and the case in their boxes, and nothing to put in there.
Oh.
So that has been slightly annoying me. I also ordered an Apple Pencil through Amazon, and that is still in transit, so that might arrive maybe before, maybe at the same time as the iPad itself. So imagine if I had that as well. That would be even worse.
Yeah, you're not getting any sympathy from me there because I ordered an Apple Pencil very early on, and I think it was getting on for 2 months before Apple made enough to send me one. So you're just waiting a day. Oh dear.
And then there's the fact that I've also bought an iTunes gift card for myself because it was discounted. And I'm sitting here going, I can't put it onto my iTunes account because I know full well Apple Music will be charged out of it and we'll take it out of that first.
Oh, I didn't realise that's how that works with gift card stuff. That's a problem. Oh, noted for the future there. So you wait till it comes and then you rush on straight to the App Store to buy all the Omni group apps,
first item
right?
I'm going to try and get is Pixelmator, or Pixelmator, or however you want to pronounce it.
Pixelmator. That's actually, do you know, that was on my mental list to recommend.
I mean, I use it on a daily basis anyway on the Mac, so it kind of makes sense.
No, see, I don't have it on the Mac. I presumably you like it from the way you're saying that as well. I might have to look into it. You couldn't gift me yet from this iTunes card. Again, you just...
It's £4.
4 entire
£4
pounds?
entire pounds. And that's for the iPad Pro
Well,
version.
no, hang on. Oh, no, I've got the iPad version. I use that a lot. Yeah, I thought you meant the Mac version was £4. Do you happen to know how much the Mac one was? Because this is suddenly intriguing.
According to the Mac App Store, it's coming up as £23. So, yeah, I'm sure I paid something like £15 or something for it.
I'm just trying to think of how much money I've spent on Photoshop over the years in different versions. But it's funny that we should be talking money here because there is news out this week that the average iPhone user spends $35 a year on apps, and I think it's mostly games or something. That seems way too little to me. But I do tend to buy quite expensive productivity apps and things. Are you budgeting to spend $35 a year, in which case, how much have you lost straight off on Pixelmator? It was $3 or $4 or $5 or something equivalent, isn't it? So you've only got $30 left for the next 12 months. What are you going to spend it on?
Well, that's the average person. You must understand that we aren't average.
Nobody's average, really.
As horribly boastfully it is, we certainly do not count as average users. I'm sure there's many people out there who don't spend that much at all and are just content with putting Candy Crush Saga or whatever stupid version they're out on right now and putting that on and just enjoying that.
I think that sounds sensible and normal, apart from the Candy Crush Saga. But I think I've been worrying about this since we talked about battery life and the fact, what in the world am I doing all day to deplete the battery on my iPhone, iPad Pro, and iPad Air, and I would presumably deplete the battery on my iMac if it had one as well. Do I just not have a life? Is that why I spend more than $35 a year? Please be careful how you answer this.
I think it's because you have slightly higher technical requirements compared to other people.
That was really well done. I'm going to thank you with that. And yet, before the other shoe drops, I'm going to move on to other things. you've got this iTunes card coming through, and you were talking about Apple Music fee coming out of it and things. I actually didn't realise. So did you flip the switch, and you are now a paying Apple Music
I don't think it's
user?
a case of flipping the switch. It's more a case of forgetting to turn it off.
Yes.
I mean, I am willing to say that I am still paying for Google Play Music All Access and Apple Music. The Google Play Music All Access is because my music's over there, and also I'm still waiting for them to bring out YouTube Red over here, and that will be what I'm going to be over the moon about. Apple Music, it's got its uses.
I wonder if that's going to change now you've got an iPad. One thing I was surprised about with my iPad Pro is how good the speakers are. So I do listen to a lot more music. I watch a lot more films on it. That's where the battery life is going. It's not work at all. But if you have very good speakers and an Apple Music connection, I wonder if you'll end up using that more than Google Play. Can you play Google Play on iPads?
There's an app for that.
Okay, what a shock. And I'm not sure what YouTube Red is.
That's the being able to watch things on YouTube without having to watch any of the pre-roll ads or seeing those pop-up ads that appear during the middle of videos. Just an ad-free experience.
But you still get every video beginning with, "What's up, guys? I'm 3 years old and I've just made a video." That kind of thing. There's no way to cut that out.
Do you mean that as part of the video itself?
Yeah.
If you mean getting rid of the YouTuber sense of wonder and excitement and all that, no, you can't get rid of that.
Okay, we have a different take on that. Music services, are you considering... Well, I was going to mention Tidal, because apparently that's just reached 3 million users, but there's also now SoundCloud, a SoundCloud subscription service, which has come at an interesting time since SoundCloud's having financial problems. This could be what saves them. I'm not even clear, actually, what you get for subscribing to SoundCloud. Are you exploring any of these yet?
I'm not really looking at SoundCloud. SoundCloud Go's their streaming music service. They had a streaming app before where you can stream any songs that happen to be on SoundCloud and any podcasts, for example, the Mac and N podcast that's on there, and this one. But now you'll be able to do that and also listen to your latest Katy Perry or Bucks Fizz or Axl Rose or whatever the young kids today are listening to. So you can listen to major record label music. You can do it without any advertising, which is going to be a bonus. There are a few things about it, though. For a start, if you are paying for it, after the 30 days, you pay $10 per month, except if you get it through the iOS app, which will cost $13 a month.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's the usual Apple 30% transaction fee problem. Spotify had that problem quite a while ago, where they went through a campaign where they tried contacting anyone who went through the iOS app and subscribed through that directly, and urged them by saying, you could save $3 a month if you go directly to us, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Apple's 30% because I publish books through Apple and through Amazon, and Amazon just knifes you 5 ways from hell of different prices and things. Would you like to pay only 30% or 70%? Obviously, you tick 30% and it goes tough. You can only have the smaller royalties. Here's a button for Y, and it's just Apple. At least you know what it's going to be. So I'm not anti the 30% with Apple, but the 30, it makes sense. It's a big chunk of change. At least, I mean, remember what it was like when software people used to sell stuff in boxes. If you go through a retail store system, you're not going to get 30% off. You'd be lucky to get 30% at the end. And streaming music couldn't work like that. It's all online now, isn't it? You ordered your iPad online. These services are online. And yet there is news this week of developments in shops. Have you seen what Apple has just done for, I don't know, Apple Store 2.0?
What, you mean the newer Johnny Ive-inspired palaces of consumption?
Palaces of consumption. Excellent phrase. Yes, but the ones with, is it 37 feet wide television sets and things. Oh, it's Apple TV. They've finally done it. And it plays, presumably, adverts a lot. Kind of. There's one in somewhere in Buffalo, Albany, which apparently is some. I thought Buffalo was somewhere else, but this is a Memphis suburb called Buffalo, and it features this 37 feet HD display. It doesn't have the Apple logo anywhere. I think you're supposed to just kind of guess that it's Apple, but you will. I can't see what the other difference is. Oh, there's different lighting.
I'm looking at the one of the photos for it, and I'm quite amazed they managed to do this without having those lines that you see where people have obviously put together multiple display units and are trying to blur the line between the two so you don't see this grid appearing. So either that's a very fortunate shot and there's just no appearance of it from that angle, or they really have managed to eliminate that grid effect.
I've been reading about it, and apparently it's not a lucky shot. That is it. However they do it, it works, and it's not projection. There isn't, not a camera. There isn't a projector the other side of the room or buried inside. So, yeah, I'm intrigued. Maybe all the Apple TV research was paid off.
Maybe Gene Munster's really, really happy about this.
Gene Munster, I keep forgetting about him. This is the analyst who predicts everything.
Yeah, they're going to be coming out with a HD TV with Apple TV capabilities built into it. No. So at least now...
Well, apparently, yes.
Well, according to him...
There it is.
No, well, how do you know this has got Apple TV capabilities? This is only an Apple TV by the standards of it's a TV in an Apple store.
That's pretty conclusive proof to me, I think. Looking at me again. Okay. Do we have any idea when these things are rolling out everywhere? I mean, presumably they're not going to just do it once. It's going to go out to all of them. I don't know how many Apple stores there are, but one or two. Are we going to see one here in the UK? I take it Apple is going...
I mean, they've done it in 3 stores, haven't they?
3 already, even while we've been talking.
It's the Albany, Buffalo, and Germantown in Memphis.
Oh, that explains why I thought Buffalo was somewhere else. I'm just thick. That's what it is. Okay, well, 3 down, hundreds to go, kind of thing. I wonder if they'll be on Apple Store 3.0 before we get to see these ones. Apple stores. Okay, even in this new form, they exist. What was that phrase? Palaces of consumption? No, it's better than that. But something of that ilk. You consume their things in there. Do you happen to know how many computers, let's call it that to cover everything, Apple has ever sold?
I'm going to go with 3.
Yeah? Okay. You've got one, I've got one. I think Tim Cook's got one.
I think that's it. They've never sold any others, have they?
I'm going to go slightly the other way in my bet and say that, off the top of my head, over 40 years, I think Apple's probably sold... Oh, let me work it out, because Angela's got one. It's probably 1,591,092,250, give or take. Now, I don't think that includes your iPad Pro, because that hasn't been delivered yet. But allegedly, reportedly, that is the figure of over 40 years. I truly don't know how that figure has been calculated. I'm writing the This Week in Apple History feature from MacNN every week, and many, many times I see reports across the years that so many Macs or so many Apple IIs have been sold by this point. But a definitive overall count, I don't know where this figure is coming from. But still, 1.5 billion machines in 40 years. What strikes me about that, apart from the fact that it's massive, is that if you look back to 1976 and all the many, many computer manufacturers that were starting off then, none of them exist. Only Apple is still making and selling computers. There's Microsoft, of course, but it's selling computers now. It wasn't then. There's IBM, of course, but that got out of the game a long, long time ago. Apple is the only one standing. Atari, Commodore, I mean, they're just gone. And considering how often Apple came close to dying, I find it remarkable that it's had this staying power. And yeah, it's impressive. It's a nice, interesting business case, if nothing else. So happy 40th anniversary, Apple. And as soon as I can, I'm looking at a new iMac, This is a few years old now, the one I'm using today. So I'll make it 1,591,092,251 as soon as I can. Are you going to use the halo effect and as soon as your iPad Pro arrives, order an iMac and an iPhone 7 or something? Or
I don't think so. I kind of like having my decaps, thank you very much, Mr. Bank Manager.
You see, until he went to his kneecaps, there was something terribly sensible. I'm off on this flight to fancy, and you're... No. That's the difference between us. I like that. But we do have this similarity. We always have Thingies of the Week. Now, I'm assuming that your Thingy of the Week would be your iPad Pro, but you haven't got it, so is there something else? But also, actually, as I say it too, you've just said that you've got the case and the cover. Upon my head with a large iPad Pro is that cases make it even bigger. The Logitech Create keyboard case that I reviewed for a while, it was like driving a windsurfing thing. It's just huge. So in fact, I don't like cases on my iPad, but I type an amazing amount. And as good as the keyboard is on screen on iPad Pro, I have to use an external keyboard just to punch through enough words in the day. Are you looking for an external keyboard? Do you already have a Bluetooth keyboard that will work with it?
Yeah, in terms of keyboard, I know that there's the keyboard cover, smart keyboard. You know, that thing that Apple announced at the same time.
Yes, smart connector keyboard.
Whatever it's called. I didn't go for that, partly because that's 130 odd pound, and partly because they're not doing a UK layout.
Still, I didn't know that. Oh, that's bad.
So I kind of like the idea of having a keyboard in the layout that I'm so used to. So, yeah, when that comes out in the UK layout, I might be tempted, but currently no. I don't have a Bluetooth keyboard. I'm tempted to get hold of one, if only so that if I'm using this as a theoretical laptop replacement, I can at least have the keyboard in my bag ready to go at a moment's notice if necessary.
I'm currently trying very hard to get a Logitech K811 keyboard. It's the backlit keyboard for Mac and iPad stuff. It's gorgeous. It's quite expensive. It appears to be discontinued in the UK just when I get the burn on to get it. For the moment, I'm using the Logitech K380, which is actually excellent. I just want more. But one of the things about it is I can chuck it in my bag. I can use it with either my iPads or my iPhone. Or when I'm at home, sometimes I'll pair it with the Apple TV when I'm just searching through that useless interface and things. Gorgeous things, very, very light. And I carry a big bag. It doesn't take any room at all. So I would suggest keyboard and bag and case. I'm just trying to make you spend money.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Fair enough. But I really feel that about the pain about potentially dropping it. I'm using a thing called a Dodo case on my large iPad Pro. It's just like having a hardback book cover, quite basic, quite straightforward, but good and strong. And until I got that, I was terrified of taking this iPad Pro out. I just didn't do it. And now I'm a lot more casual about it, and I can, but only because I know it's safe in my bag as well as wherever I take it to. In fact, it's probably the case that changed me around about how much I use the iPad, because it can now go with me everywhere. I use it everywhere. I'd make it my Thing of the Week, except I already have. This time, my Thing of the Week is an ebook, Evernote Essentials by Brett Kelly. It's the latest version of his guide. Well, he says it's the last version. That's like a come on headline. He means he's going to just update it in drips rather than editions in the future. It's a guide to how to use Evernote, which you wouldn't think you'd need, but there's so much little twiddly details that when you know them make a big difference. And he writes it in a very entertaining, interesting way. And there's a new version out now. If you go to brettkelly.org, so BRETTKELLY.org, and I've forgotten the price already because I got to pay an upgrade price from my last version, but we'll put it in the show notes. The show notes, which should they include a link to the iPad Pro as well, or is that just rubbing it in for people like you who are still waiting? Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'll go off and do that right now. Good talking to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.